Let us start with a reality that sounds simple, but completely changes how retirement should be viewed. Having $500,000 saved for retirement does not automatically mean financial freedom. It feels like a big number. It looks impressive on a statement, but money in an account is not the same thing as money you can actually live on. What matters in retirement is not the balance. It is the income that balance can safely produce every single month. This is where the 4% rule comes in. The rule suggests that you can withdraw 4% of your retirement portfolio in the first year of retirement, then adjust that amount for inflation each year, with a reasonable chance of your money lasting about 30 years. On paper, that sounds reassuring, but when you do the actual math, the picture changes fast. 4% of $500,000 is $20,000 per year. That breaks down to roughly $1,667 per month. Now pause for a moment and think about that number. In today's economy, $1,667 per month barely covers rent in many cities, let alone food, utilities, transportation, insurance, and unexpected expenses. This is why so many people feel blindsided when they approach retirement. They were focused on hitting a savings target, not on translating that savings into real monthly cash flow. The 4% rule itself is not wrong, but it is often misunderstood. It was developed using historical market data under very specific assumptions. It assumes long-term market growth, controlled inflation, and disciplined spending. It was never meant to guarantee comfort. It was designed to reduce the risk of running out of money. Those are two very different goals. The illusion happens when people see a large retirement balance and assume it automatically equals a comfortable lifestyle. In reality, retirement planning is an income problem, not a savings problem. If you do not understand how much income your savings can safely generate, you are planning blind. This is why the question is not, can I retire with $500,000? The real question is, what kind of monthly life does that number actually support? If this perspective is already changing how you think about retirement, comment the number 1 below so you do not miss the rest of the video. The next factors are where this conversation gets really interesting. Once you understand that retirement is really about monthly income, not just the size of your savings, the next piece of the puzzle becomes impossible to ignore. Social Security. Most people treat it like a bonus, something extra that shows up later. Something nice to have, but not something they plan around. That mindset is a huge mistake. When you combine Social Security with the income from your retirement savings, the difference can be life-changing. Two people can each retire with the same $500,000 saved, follow the same 4% rule, and end up living completely different lives simply because their Social Security benefits are different. That is not theory. That is how the system actually works. Your Social Security benefit is based on your lifetime earnings and the age at which you claim it. Someone who spent their career earning lower wages may receive a modest monthly benefit. Someone with an average income will land somewhere in the middle, and someone with consistently high earnings can receive a benefit that is more than double that of a low earner. Over the course of a year, that gap can easily exceed $20,000. Over a full retirement, it can reach hundreds of thousands. That difference changes everything. It can determine whether your basic expenses are covered before you ever touch your savings. It can decide whether your portfolio is supporting your lifestyle or constantly being drained to survive. This is why Social Security is not a flat number and not a side detail. It is a range, and where you fall within that range reshapes your entire retirement math. The timing of when you claim benefits matters just as much as the amount. Claiming earlier means smaller checks for life. Waiting longer increases guaranteed income every month, reduces how much you need to withdraw from your savings, and lowers the risk of running out of money later in life. For many people, making a smart Social Security decision has a bigger impact than saving an extra $100,000 ever could. When you stop treating Social Security as an afterthought and start treating it as a core income source, retirement planning becomes clearer, more stable, and far less stressful. It turns from a guessing game into a strategy. Once Social Security is added to the picture, something important becomes clear. Income alone does not decide whether retirement works. What truly determines the outcome is how far that income can actually go. And no factor stretches or crushes your retirement income faster than where you choose to live. Two retirees can have the same monthly income, the same savings, and the same withdrawal strategy, yet experience completely different retirements based on location alone. This is because housing, utilities, transportation, and food are not fixed costs. They are geographic costs. A city that felt manageable during your working years can quietly become unsustainable once you are living on a fixed income. In high-cost areas, housing alone can consume most of a retiree's monthly income. Rent or property taxes, combined with higher utility bills and everyday expenses, leave very little room for error. One unexpected expense can force withdrawals from savings earlier than planned. Over time, this accelerates portfolio depletion and increases financial stress. Retirement becomes less about freedom and more about constant calculation. Now, contrast that with a lower-cost location. When housing costs drop, everything else becomes easier. Lower rent or property taxes reduce the minimum income you need to survive. Groceries and services tend to cost less. Transportation expenses often fall. The result is not just extra spending money, but flexibility. Flexibility is what allows a retirement plan to survive market downturns, health surprises, and inflation. Over a long retirement, these differences compound. Saving even a few $100s per month can add up to tens of thousands per year. Over 30 years, that can rival the size of the original retirement portfolio itself. In other words, where you live can matter just as much as how much you saved. This does not mean everyone should move. Family, community, and familiarity all have real value. But staying in a high-cost area is a conscious trade-off. You are choosing location over lifestyle margin. That choice is not wrong, but it must be intentional and planned for, not ignored. Retirement success is rarely about earning more money at this stage of life. It is about making smarter decisions with the income you already have. Location is one of the few levers that can instantly and permanently change your financial reality. Quick action for you: pause this video and think about one place you could live that would cut your monthly expenses in half. Just one, then keep watching. Once you start thinking clearly about income and location, there is one expense that quietly threatens to undo everything if it is ignored: healthcare. This is where many retirement plans look solid on paper but fail in real life, not because people forget about healthcare, but because they dramatically underestimate how expensive it actually is over time. The danger is greatest for those who retire before age 65. Before Medicare begins, you are responsible for purchasing private health insurance. For many early retirees, premiums alone can consume most of their annual retirement income. Add deductibles, copays, and uncovered services, and healthcare can easily absorb nearly an entire year of portfolio withdrawals. When that happens, your savings are no longer funding your lifestyle. They are simply covering medical access. Even after Medicare starts, the costs do not disappear. Monthly premiums continue. Prescription coverage adds another layer. Many retirees also choose supplemental coverage to limit out-of-pocket risk. Dental and vision care are typically not included and must be paid separately. All of this adds up to thousands of dollars every year, year after year. Over a long retirement, healthcare can quietly become one of the largest expenses you will ever face. This is why healthcare is not just another budget category. It is a structural risk. It competes directly with your ability to enjoy retirement, travel, or even maintain basic comfort. Every dollar spent on medical costs is a dollar not available for housing, food, or discretionary spending. When healthcare is underestimated, retirees are forced to pull more from their portfolios than planned, accelerating depletion and increasing anxiety. Timing matters more than most people realize. Aligning retirement age with Medicare eligibility can dramatically reduce out-of-pocket costs. Delaying retirement by even a few years can allow savings to grow longer, shorten the withdrawal period, and avoid some of the most expensive insurance years altogether. These decisions often save tens of thousands of dollars without requiring any additional saving. Healthcare planning is not about predicting illness. It is about acknowledging uncertainty and building room for it. A retirement plan that does not account for rising medical costs is incomplete, no matter how large the portfolio appears. If location determines how far your income goes, healthcare determines how long it lasts. After healthcare, the next threat to retirement does not arrive all at once. It creeps in quietly, year after year: inflation. This is the enemy most retirees underestimate because it does not feel dramatic in the moment. Prices rise slowly. Life feels manageable. And then, one day you look back and realize your money no longer buys what it used to. Inflation matters because retirement is long. A cost that seems reasonable today can double over the course of 20 years. Housing, food, utilities, and insurance rarely stay flat. Yet many retirees treat their savings as if time stands still. They move their money into accounts that feel safe but barely grow. In the short term, that decision feels responsible. In the long term, it quietly erodes purchasing power. The danger of playing it too safe is that safety becomes an illusion. If your investments are not growing faster than inflation, you are moving backward, even if the account balance does not fall. This is why retirement investing still requires growth. Not aggressive speculation, but intentional exposure to assets that historically outpace rising costs. A balanced approach is often the answer. Growth assets help your money keep up with inflation, while more stable assets reduce volatility and provide predictable income. The goal is not to chase returns. The goal is to preserve spending power over decades. Without that balance, retirement becomes a slow financial squeeze rather than a stable chapter of life. However, growth comes with risk, and timing matters. One of the most damaging scenarios is experiencing a market downturn early in retirement while still withdrawing income. Selling assets at depressed prices can permanently reduce a portfolio's ability to recover. This is known as sequence risk, and it is one of the reasons retirement investing feels so complex. The solution is structure. Separating short-term spending money from long-term growth assets creates breathing room. When markets are volatile, spending can come from safer reserves instead of selling growth assets at the wrong time. When markets recover, those reserves can be replenished. Inflation does not announce itself. It just shows up over time, and the only defense is a plan that allows your money to grow while still protecting you from short-term shocks. After inflation and investing, there is one factor that quietly magnifies every other risk in retirement: debt. At this stage of life, debt does not just reduce comfort. It changes the entire math of whether retirement even works. Two retirees can have the same income, the same savings, and the same withdrawal strategy, yet end up in completely different situations depending on whether they carry debt. When fixed monthly payments follow you into retirement, they create pressure that never goes away. A mortgage, a car payment, or credit card balances all demand cash flow before you spend a single dollar on food, healthcare, or enjoyment. For someone who enters retirement debt-free, the picture looks very different. With no required payments, monthly expenses drop dramatically. This reduces how much income is needed just to survive. Lower expenses mean smaller portfolio withdrawals, which allows savings to last longer and recover more easily from market downturns. It also creates flexibility. When something unexpected happens, a medical expense, a market decline, or a family emergency, there is room to adapt without panic. Debt removes that flexibility. Even low-interest debt increases risk because it forces withdrawals regardless of market conditions. When markets are down, debt payments still need to be made. That can require selling investments at the worst possible time, permanently damaging Long-term growth. Over time, this accelerates portfolio depletion and increases the risk of running out of money later in life. There is a common argument that keeping low-rate debt makes sense mathematically. On paper, investing instead of paying off a cheap mortgage can produce higher returns. But retirement is not lived on spreadsheets. It is lived month to month. The emotional weight of debt, combined with fixed obligations, often outweighs theoretical gains. Peace of mind has real financial value. Entering retirement without debt reduces stress, lowers required income, and strengthens the entire retirement plan. It does not mean you need perfect finances. It means you are not starting this phase of life already behind. Eliminating debt before retirement is not about luxury or discipline. It is about risk control. Debt does not just affect cash flow. It shortens the life of your savings and increases vulnerability when things go wrong. In retirement, stability is built by removing pressure, not adding it. Once debt is addressed, the final hidden variable comes into focus: time. Not just the age you retire, but how long your money is expected to last after your paycheck stops. This is where many retirement plans quietly break down, not because the math was wrong, but because the timeline was unrealistic. Retiring earlier sounds appealing, but it comes with real trade-offs. An earlier retirement means more years without earned income, more years of withdrawals, and fewer years for savings to grow. It also often means higher healthcare costs before Medicare eligibility and reduced Social Security benefits for life. Every year you retire early increases pressure on your portfolio from multiple directions at once. Retiring later does the opposite. It shortens the withdrawal window, gives investments more time to compound, and increases guaranteed income through higher Social Security benefits. Even a delay of a few years can dramatically improve the sustainability of a retirement plan without requiring additional saving. This is why retirement age is one of the most powerful levers in financial planning. Longevity risk makes these decisions even more important. Many people plan for retirement as if it will last 15 or 20 years. In reality, a 30-year retirement is increasingly common. The danger is not having too much money early in retirement. The danger is running out late, when health is fragile and earning income is no longer an option. Planning for longevity requires humility and flexibility. It means assuming you may live longer than expected and structuring income accordingly. Reliable income sources, conservative withdrawal assumptions, and the ability to adjust spending over time all become critical. Retirement is not a finish line. It is a long phase of life that unfolds over decades. The age you choose to retire determines how much margin you have to handle uncertainty. And in retirement, margin is what keeps stress low and options open. After everything we have discussed, the final message is simple but powerful. Retirement success is not determined by a single number on a statement. It is determined by how clearly and intentionally all the moving parts are planned to work together. Most people do not fail retirement because they saved too little. They struggle because they planned in general terms instead of specific ones. A number like $500,000 sounds meaningful on its own, but without context, it tells you nothing. It does not tell you how much income you can safely generate. It does not tell you where you can afford to live. It does not tell you how healthcare, inflation, debt, or market volatility will affect you over time. Those details are what actually shape day-to-day life in retirement. Throughout this video, we broke retirement down into decisions, not dreams. Income matters more than balances. Social Security is a foundation, not an afterthought. Location can stretch your money further than years of extra saving. Healthcare must be planned for realistically, not optimistically. Inflation quietly punishes inaction. Debt adds pressure that compounds every other risk. Timing determines whether your plan has enough margin to last decades instead of years. When these pieces are aligned, even a modest portfolio can support a calm and fulfilling retirement. When they are ignored, even large savings can feel fragile and stressful. This is why retirement is not a financial milestone you cross once. It is a system you manage over time. Each choice either reduces pressure or adds to it. The most important shift is mental. Stop asking whether a certain amount of money is enough. Start asking whether your plan supports the life you actually want to live. Where do you want to be? How flexible do you want your spending to be? How much uncertainty are you prepared to handle? Those answers matter more than chasing a bigger number. Money is just the tool. Strategy gives it purpose. Clarity gives it power. If this breakdown helped you see retirement more clearly, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next video. We will continue turning complex financial topics into practical decisions you can actually use. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.